Thank you, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Members of the House, our respected guests in the gallery, and of course, the viewers watching the proceedings on television. Nesimbula, Namaste, Assalamu Alaikum, and a very good morning to you all. Madam Speaker, I rise to thank His Excellency the President for his inaugural address that sets alight how Fiji has turned the tide in Rio and the rise from the destructions caused by Tropical Cyclone Winston with no one left behind. It is the winning platform that stirs fellow Fijians to believe in themselves that we can do anything if we put our minds onto it and do it with hard work and with unity for the cause. Our noble Veena blue has flown to the far corners of the earth and certainly will fly to higher altitudes with the smart navigation of the Fijian government. Madam Speaker, it is my honor to address this august House as the new Assistant Minister for Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation. I pledge to serve with loyalty and to the very best of my ability under the leadership of my Minister. It is my gratitude and my aim that I will be focusing on people living with disabilities in a holistic sense. I'm thankful that the experience I had with the Minister of Health and Medical Services has equipped me well to serve my fellow Fijians in this new ministry. Madam Speaker, we created a new page in our history books when our Constitution articulated the rights of people with disabilities. A new beacon is taken shape with the Disability Bill and the processes of ratifying the Convention of the Rights of People Living with Disabilities. The landscape of change for people living with disabilities has started, and it is the result of the Fijian government having the commitment to make it happen for them. This commitment is not a promise on paper, but one that is progressively unveiled for all to see. It is one where people living with disabilities are rising up with happiness and delight. Madam Speaker, my eyes lit up with joy when on the 12th of September, Naomi Lavakita stood in Parliament to be acknowledged in this august House. Naomi read the Braille version of the Constitution on the rights of disabled persons. History was also made when the budget address by the Honourable Minister for Economy for the new fiscal year was televised live with interpretation in sign language. The seasons of happiness for the disabled has gone to newer heights. Madam Speaker, before this House is the new Disability Bill, a bill which has brought happy hearts to people with disabilities in Fiji. We needed to uphold individual or collective rights of the disabled population and formulate the legislation that will appropriately address the needs and aspirations of persons with disabilities living in Fiji. Madam Speaker, such legislation will uphold the rights of persons with disabilities. Madam Speaker, disability is a cross-cutting issue like gender, poverty, violence against women and children, and NCDs. The move from handout to right-based approach has given the ultimate provisions for a new legislation like Disability Bill 2014 to override all existing legislation pertaining to disability. Madam Speaker, addressing the rights of people living with disabilities has been given a lift with a number of measures in place to support it. The public buses will have priority seating in the first 5 rows for expectant mothers, people with disabilities, and senior citizens. More to that, people living with disabilities are given special consideration under the Poverty Benefit Scheme. Madam Speaker, they are also exempted from bus fares in public buses. Madam Speaker, their community-based rehabilitation and the integration of persons with disabilities into the community will be an ongoing matter that will require the support of all. Madam Speaker, the National Baseline Survey on Disability 2008 to 2009 saw an estimate of 11,402 with 6,180 men and 5,222 women with disabilities in Fiji. The rise in NCDs can be viewed as a leading contribution to the increasing disabilities for each of the development cohorts of life. To have a nation where there is a limb amputation every 8 hours is a huge threat to the expectation that people age with a good quality of life. Madam Speaker, the right of every disabled person to access justice, education, life, participation in cultural life and recreation, to employment without discrimination, and participation in public and political life will be a reality check on us. Other important provisions in the UN Convention include the recognition that women with disabilities suffer multiple forms of discrimination and the recognition of the special needs of children with disabilities. Madam Speaker, there is a good move in addressing disability in Fiji so as to develop a more inclusive society, create greater awareness of the needs of people with disabilities, and identify priority areas for action to dismantle barriers hindering the full participation of people with disabilities in the social and economic life in the Fiji Islands. Madam Speaker, people with disabilities are among the most marginalized groups in the world. People with disabilities have poorer health outcomes, lower education achievements, less economic participation, and higher rates of poverty than people without disabilities. Madam Speaker, disability is now understood to be a human rights issue. People are disabled by society, not just by their bodies. These barriers can be overcome if governments, non-governmental organizations, professionals and people with disabilities and their families work together. The Fijian government has paid attention to remove these injustices and miseries. Madam Speaker, His Excellency made a strong mention of the range of specific programs to assist the most vulnerable members of our society. This does not leave out people living with disabilities, and we are grateful for the well-thought-out measure that matters to people living with disabilities. Madam Speaker, in taking action to bridge the human divide and be an inclusive society, the Fijian government is changing the playfield for the people living with disabilities. The significant investment in infrastructure by our government, new opportunities for better livelihoods of disabled persons will be increased. Madam Speaker, His Excellency made a reference to the disproportionate lead we are taking to draw global attention to the urgent need to confront the challenges of climate change. Our recent experience is an opportunity to build back resilient communities, which will include a safe haven for people living with disabilities. The moment in our land where we tap the wonderful sense of unity that has come our way can trickle to the lives of fellow Fijians living with disabilities. Madam Speaker, our ministry is the lead agency for the people living with disabilities and will stand ready to work with all stakeholders to see mainstreaming of children with special needs into the education system, the mainstreaming into the workforce, and the actions that will become alive with the disability bill. We now enjoy strong friendships with the superpowers of this planet, and through that we can look comprehensively at the unmet areas for disabled persons. Madam Speaker, the Ministry will work with the Ministry of Economy for the full and smart utilization for the budget allocation of 1.6 million for the people living with disabilities in the West and the disability NGOs in Fiji. The gender and social focus on our communities will bring about good returns. Madam Speaker, I also wish to remind the Parliament that the 2016-2017 budget gives a 300% tax rebate to those who employ persons with disabilities. This is a wonderful opportunity. It gives more economic opportunity to our disabled citizens. It gives them dignity. It gives us access to talent that we have not accessed ever before. Madam Speaker, the issues for people living with disabilities will be structurally actioned with a change in the existing governance structure. It can only get better and brighter from now. The energy that made a landfall in Fiji after Rio has also touched our fellow Fijians with disabilities. We are now on a journey where all are included, and this is the very best of times to live in our country. Madam Speaker, I close with a request to this August House that whatever we can do to alleviate the misery and empower fellow Fijians living with disabilities will go a long way to bring them joy, peace and comfort. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I cover the level.